Hey there, welcome to RV Gear and Far. I'm Joshua. Today we are jumping into waste tank treatments for your RV. There's a lot of different RV black tank, waste tank treatments out there on the market, and it really has been always confused. So like, how do they work? Does one work better than the other? And so I bought 8 of them, and we're gonna test them head to head to each other for 6 days, and we're gonna see which one performs the best. Let's dive into it. All right, to start off, we got 9 different tubs, simulation black tanks. We have 8 different products to try, and we're gonna have a control, just water only. To start off, we did 1 gallon of water in each of them. Then we put the recommended dosing for each treatment into 1 gallon of water and poured that in. So they're all starting out at 2 gallons of water with enough treatment for 40 gallons. So whatever the 40-gallon treatment was, we put 2 gallons of water, had that all in. And then we put in twice a day, morning and evening, a mixture of dog food and toilet paper. So we did 3/4 a cup of dog food and 10 squares of toilet paper twice a day with 2 quarts of water. So 1 gallon a day, a cup and a half of dog food, and 20 pieces of toilet paper for 6 days. Now, it was really interesting to take the lids off the morning after the first day, so the morning of the second day, and see what they looked like. And these are the results that we got. They were all kind of floating, saturated dog food pieces, but I was really impressed that the Unique Digest Plus and the Liquified seemed to have dissolved those solids pretty much overnight. They were incredibly fast compared to every other option that we were trying. All right, y'all, this is the second day. I'm about to put the 4th round of dog food and toilet paper into these bins, and I didn't expect to see results so fast. I'm gonna walk you down the line, and it is absolutely evident there are 2 of these that are outperforming the others. I can't say yet whether the others work given enough time, but there's 2 that are definitely doing more than the others are. My last input of dog food and toilet paper was earlier this morning, so 6-7 hours ago. And this is what it looks like at the moment. All right, starting at this end, we have the control with just water. This is the BioGeo method. Third is the EcoStrong. Then we have the Odorlos, AquaMax, the TST Max. This is the Unique Digest Plus. This is Liquified, and this is Happy Camper. So to me, the Liquified and the Unique are performing really well. If I go ahead and I count the number of dog food pieces that are still floating at the top, the Liquified has about 13, the Unique has around 20. So it's really hard to tell, some of them are in parts and pieces, but it seems like the Liquified has digested just a slight bit more than the Unique. But these 2, compared to the rest of them, it's absolute, they're way ahead, way ahead. And some of these don't even look like they're doing anything more than the control with just the water. So we're gonna continue on. I'm gonna put in the 4th dose now. And if you want to connect with other RVers to talk about DIY projects, gear reviews, travel locations, anything RV related, come on over and join us at RV Gear and Far. I'll make sure to put a link in the description. And then we go ahead and we add in the 2 doses a day for the 6 days, and then we get to the results. And this is what we have right before we dump those simulated black tanks. All right, so this is the Happy Camper. This is the only powdered one, and we've got some mighty big chunks. You can definitely tell it's still dog food. They're floating on the top. Looks like there's majority of it is floating at the top, and it really hasn't broken down a whole lot. We're gonna move over. This is the Liquified. I can tell only because I knew what was in here that this was dog food, but it is all the floating pieces are not solid pieces of dog food. It's all mush. So that looks like it's done its job of liquefying the waste. We'll see when we pour it through the funnel how much gets caught. Moving over to, this is the Unique Digest Plus. Very similar to the Liquified. I don't see any solid pieces of dog food. And it looks like everything on the bottom, there's an earwig, is Liquified. Moving next, this is the TST Max. This is kind of a blend. We've got some chunks that look like probably the stuff I put in last night that you can tell are still kind of solid. But then we've also got some liquefied waste over there. I'm gonna say this is kind kind of a mix between performing and not performing. We'll see what that looks like going through. Then over here is the AquaMax. This one looks like a lot of the waste to the dog food has been liquefied, but it's also all floating and congealed. I could definitely see you emptying your black tank and all the water flushing out and all this gunk staying at the top and then kind of just sitting. We'll see what that looks like when we dump it. But it does look like it liquefied. The next is the Odorlos. This, that's definitely just dog food. I mean, having looked at all these, the water, the straight control is doing better than the Odorlos. So I don't know if there's something in here that's prohibiting the breakdown, but those are definitely just chunks of soggy dog food. This is the EcoStrong. Kind of the same here on the EcoStrong as with the AquaMax. It's kind of like a floating mass of liquefied waste. There are some chunks in here that are not yet liquefied. Yeah. So this between, the AquaMax and this EcoStrong, they have the liquefied waste. It's kind of sitting on top. The digestate and the liquefied also had it, but their top layers seem to be much thinner, much more watery. Whereas this stuff is broken down, but it's very chunky. A lot thicker, almost a foamy. This is the BioGeo, and we didn't expect the BioGeo to break anything down. It's not a liquefier like the others are, but I wanted to show what it does compared to dedicated liquefier. This is definitely chunky, soggy dog food, and this is by far the thickest. Not much in here has broken down at all, which is interesting because now we go over to the control with just water, and there's quite a bit that's broken down with just water. I was actually surprised. This stuff right here is probably what I put in last night, so that's 17 hours of just water. But then look at all this that did break down. It's really interesting. So it's, we'll have to see when we pour it through the funnel, but there's definitely, some of these did not perform any better than just straight water, and I would venture to say some of them performed worse than just water. But we'll go pour them through the funnel and see if we can get any more information out of that. Now those results are interesting of themselves. We're also now going to cart those over to my dump station. I've got a funnel, and we're going to pour these dump tanks into the funnel with a filter on it, and to see how much of the waste has been liquefied. All right, this is the control. It's quite a bit of solids down at the bottom still. We've clogged up our funnel. I'm gonna kind of shake this some, get it to go a little bit, but I understand I'm putting some of the solids through the funnel, but just to give us a, yeah, that's actually just letting them out through the bottom. So we'll have to extrapolate from that. It's quite a bit of dissolved. There's no, over here are a few chunks. There's a leaf from the tree, but the water actually dissolved the solids pretty well. All right, this is the BioGeo, so the water softener and the dish detergent. I have a feeling this one's gonna clog up quite fast. Yep, as expected, that's just the big chunks of dog food are getting caught up real fast. So we're gonna take out this strainer, and we're just going to pour down there and watch and see what kind of solids are left maybe at the bottom of the tank after all this gets poured out. So I will note with the BioGeo method, there's not a whole lot of dissolved solids, which makes sense because of what we saw, but that also means that there's not a whole lot left in the tank. So there definitely may be something to this of, it doesn't necessarily break down the waste, but it definitely has less solids left in the tank versus just the water, because there's less silt at the bottom. So we'll have to see compared to the others what that means. All right, so this is the EcoStrong. So we definitely got a little bit more through than just the control before we got down to the solids that aren't coming through and clogging the sifter. So we're gonna dump that now. And then pour the rest of this liquid off. See what comes. Well, with the EcoStrong, there's definitely just silty residue left. All the chunks have been dissolved. Might be a little piece there off to the right hand of the screen. But it definitely went through the funnel with the sifter on it significantly longer than the control, which tells me that it broke down the toilet paper probably faster than just plain water. But that's the EcoStrong. All right, here's the Odorlos. Now this is definitely much chunkier than the others have been outside of the BioGeo. So I'm wondering, I'm curious to know if there's just chunks or if there's also gonna be silt at the bottom. And that's definitely, you know, chunky. You gotta go a lot slower. It's not going through the sifter very much at all. All right, so it's still staying chunky. So we're gonna dump that. Didn't get much through at all before it clogged up the sifter. So as far as a liquefier, this Odorlos is not doing the best, but let's see how much residue is left. We're at the point now where it's all very sludgy. There's not a whole lot of liquid left. It's all sloshy food and toilet paper. So yeah, quite a lot left in there of just gunk. All right, next up is the AquaMax. And this, it's a lot of toilet paper fragments. We're gonna see how fast that clogs it up. That did impressively well. There's quite a bit of silt left on the bottom still, but it is all liquefied. So there's, you know, there's still definitely some silt in there, but there's very few pieces of even small chunks of food. And as much as there were chunks, I could see floating pieces of tissue paper, toilet paper, it definitely had no problem going through that medium-sized grate right there. So this did pretty well as far as liquefying the waste. All right, now we have the TST Max. We've definitely got some chunks floating in here, but it's pretty murky water with some big chunks. Let's dump it and see how far we get. So it was a little over half the amount that is in the tub that got dumped before it clogged that up. Let's see what we get here. Yeah, still a bunch of undissolved chunks. This is the biggest amount of toilet paper particles I've seen yet. It seems like it's potentially working, it's just not working very fast. Yeah, and those are all just kind of medium-sized chunks. All right, this is the unique Digestant Plus. The simulation of driving from where we had these stored on the little cart over to here definitely jostles them up a bit. Would be very equivalent to you driving from a partial hookup site to the dump station. So a lot of the foam that I've been seeing on these is getting kind of mixed back in, and this is pretty darn clear at the moment. So everything is definitely digested. It's not solid anymore, but we're at the point now where we're got enough toilet paper that it's clogging up this filter. So there's definitely stuff at the bottom, and there's not a whole lot of anything left. Those are crazy tiny particles. I'll leave those in there so we can take a look at them. And here's the unique Digestant Plus. You can see there's not a whole lot of anything. That's all just silty silt breakdown. Very few pieces of toilet paper, but they're all definitely broken down. There were no big chunks of anything. And the last time anything was introduced in here was about 17 hours ago. All right, we've got the liquefied. And we got about as far as we did as the Unique Digest It before it started clogging up. Here's the liquefied. Definitely all breaking down. There are no big chunks of anything in there. Some pieces of toilet paper and then a bunch of gritty, broken down dog food. All right, this is the last one. This is the Happy Camper. Crowd favorite and the only powdered one that we tested. Now there's definitely, even after pulling it over here, this is still just chunky dog food, very similar to the BioGeo method. I have a feeling that not a lot of this is gonna go in. It's gonna clog up real fast. Yeah. And that's already clogged. So we're not gonna be able to do that clogged up real fast. So it definitely is not liquefying anything. Let's see how silty it is at the bottom. I would actually venture to guess it's not very silty because it's not breaking anything down. All right, and here's the Happy Camper. Still quite a few big chunks. Didn't really break much down, but it all seemed to be going out. I could pretty easily pour most of that back out, but it definitely did not liquefy or dissolve things like the Unique or the liquefied. I think the Happy Camper is very much similar to the BioGeo method in having, you know, most of the chunks fly out. Okay, so here's Happy Camper. We've got a few, definitely it's definitely chunky. There's a lot of stuff that didn't dissolve in there. Moving down to the liquefied, everything is pretty much dissolved. That's just silt. Same thing with the Unique Digest It Plus, that's all just silt. Now moving over to the TST Max, there's mostly silt in there. It's definitely not as dissolved as the Unique and the liquefied, but more dissolved than the Happy Camper. And we have AquaMax next, and that's pretty well dissolved too. I would say that's comparable to AquaMax, or the AquaMax is comparable to the Unique and the liquefied. And we have the Odorlos. This one is just a soupy, sloppy mess. Partially digested, there's just a lot of slop in that. I don't know that is probably, if there's two trains of thought of going big chunks or little chunks, this is medium-sized chunks. EcoStrong is next. The EcoStrong, pretty much all dissolved. That definitely dissolved all the solids, and there's not any big pieces of toilet paper. Now we have the BioGeo method. Now there are some big chunks, or pieces of chunks over on the sides there, but when it all dumped, all the solids came out. So we're gonna have to talk about that. Now we've got the control. The last one is the control, and it's dissolved, and there's some big chunks in there, but for having no sort of solvent, just digester, it dissolved pretty well. So what do these results mean? Well, it's very clear to me that there's not one answer. There's not one of these products that outshines the rest from every aspect. There's a lot of things to consider. Dosage size, price, whether you're going for the chunky soup or if you're trying to dissolve everything based off of your personal preference on how you want to treat your waste tanks. Let's just start narrowing these down and go off of my opinion and my preference. And I understand that this is a backyard experiment. There's a lot of things that I could not control for, whether by time, location, how much energy or effort we're going to put into this experiment. But hopefully this will give you a little bit of just insight into how these work in a real life situation. Again, we all put in enough dosage for a 40-gallon tank, and we only had 8 gallons of stuff in those totes. So keep that in mind as well. Two of these I want to highlight. The second day after I put in a morning and evening dose, and then the next morning I opened up and I looked at them, the Unique Digest It Plus and the Liquified, we're by far and away ahead at digesting versus the rest of these. All the rest of these had some floating, very clearly dog food in the bins. The Liquified and the Unique Digest It Plus, they were already working that fast, which is important, right? Because most of the time, RVers are going out for the weekend, a long weekend, 4 days, 5 days max. You know, we've got full-timers like me out there that are going for longer, or you go for a week or month-long trips, but you're not typically keeping your black tanks that long either. So if you're in the camp that is going for the digestion, the liquefying, these two guys had a speed advantage over the rest of them. Now, a couple other ones caught up in the digestion by the time, you know, day 6 rolled around and we did 12 doses. The EcoStrong and the AquaMax performed pretty on par with these two. They just happened to be slower. The TST Max, it was just meh. It was just meh. I would not hesitate not to use it, but there are definitely some better products out there. The Odorlos, very disappointing. This was it definitely did not work very well. Yeah, I don't know. It says it liquefies all waste and tissue, and it definitely, maybe given enough time, it would do so. And that's the thing, right, is all these probably work. It just depends on how much time you have to get that result. And then again, are you going for chunky soup or are you going for dissolved solids? And so for me personally, my preference, these two are probably off the table. Of the ones that are left, the AquaMax worked pretty well. However, each dose is an 8-ounce bottle. You know, 8 ounces is a lot. 8 ounces per dose. This is 1 ounce. This is 2 ounces. This is 1 scoop, 1 ounce. You know, this is, I put a cup in, so that's quite a bit too. The AquaMax works. It's just a lot of volume. I wonder how much water is in there. You know, the AquaMax, this is 6 doses. This is 32 doses. 17 doses. So there's a big difference there. The Happy Camper, 64 doses. So you'd have to have a lot of AquaMax on hand and be refilling and carrying around all that weight compared to some of these other products. So while it worked, I think that one, for the sake of the packaging and how it's delivered, would be off my table. So now we're getting down to these guys. In my opinion, they all worked to some degree. Liquified and Unique Digest It Plus definitely dissolved solids and dissolved them fast. The EcoStrong worked too. These two worked faster, so I'm gonna take this one off. Now we're down to almost 2 different camps. We've got two different winners here. So we've got Liquified over here and Happy Camper, and we've got Unique Digest It Plus and the BioGeo method. So on the right-hand side, we've got the products that liquefy well. On the left-hand side, we've got the products that are probably going to keep things a bit more chunky, but you're gonna have bigger chunks flowing out. Kind of, you know, lubing your tank and kind of making things flow a little easier. The reason I have them separated out is the Unique Digest It Plus and the BioGeo method require you to have additional equipment. You gotta have a measuring device of some sort in order to use these. Happy Camper and Liquified, on the other hand, there's a scoop for the Happy Camper, which makes it super easy to use. You just scoop that out and then you dissolve it by sprinkling it over the top of your toilet. And the Liquified is really easy because you just uncap this lid and you push and it fills up a dose. And then you dump it and you cap it back again. Very, very simple. And so if you're looking for a product that you can buy and just use ready to go, I think Happy Campers and Liquified are the go-to winners in my book based off of my experience. How concentrated they are, how little you have to carry around with you. And you know, it all depends on which camp you're gonna be in. If you want something a little more chunky soup or a little more dissolved solids. This worked super fast. This is, a lot of people absolutely love it, and I definitely could see how it works within the black tank to get things out. You know, one of the things about RV tanks, the biggest thing is water, water, water. The more water you use, the better off you're gonna be. That being said, if you are boondocking and you need to get the most out of your tanks, I think liquefying it is probably a good way to go because you're gonna have less dry, less solids and more liquids if you can break it down. But you know, this is all personal preference. All these products work to some degree. For all those folks who say, I never use anything, just a lot of water, we saw that that works pretty darn well too. So hopefully this gave you a bit of insight. Let me know down in the comments which waste tank treatment you're gonna use on your RV. So while this experiment is not perfect, it did take a lot of time. If you enjoy seeing this comparison, I'd love to hear your comments down below. What could I improve on? What could I do better? Give me a like and consider following the channel, and leave those comments. Let me know how we could improve this experiment and what information would be helpful for you to know.